Did you know that the secret to true happiness isn't found in your achievements or the approval of others? It's not about the number of likes you get on your posts, the fancy title you hold at work, or even the possessions you accumulate. If you want to experience lasting joy and fulfillment, you need to change the way you look at life and your role in it. The best lesson I've ever learned came from the ancient wisdom of Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, who taught that happiness comes from within, not from external circumstances. It's about aligning your actions with your core values, embracing change with courage, and finding joy in the present moment. Avoid the mistake of believing that your worth is defined by external validation. If you want to live a life that's truly meaningful, one that's grounded in inner peace, you have to start looking within. In this video, we're going to explore how you can unlock the power of gratitude, simplicity, and authenticity to transform your life, starting today. So, if you're ready to redefine happiness and discover the profound power of living with purpose, keep watching. This is the journey of a lifetime. Number 1. The power of gratitude, finding joy in the present moment. We all know that feeling of joy when something good happens. It's that brief, powerful spark of happiness that makes everything feel brighter. Maybe it's the first sip of coffee in the morning or a text from a friend that instantly lifts your spirits. Life seems to slow down for a second, and in that moment, everything feels in perfect balance. It's as though you've caught a glimpse of true happiness, a fleeting moment that makes you feel deeply grateful for what you have. But how often do we stop to savor that moment? How often do we actually pause and take time to appreciate the things that make us feel this way? In the rush of life, it's easy to take moments like these for granted. We move on quickly, checking off tasks on our never-ending to-do list, often missing the simple pleasures that surround us. We forget that the secret to living a happier, more fulfilled life doesn't lie in achieving more or accumulating more things. It lies in appreciating the present moment. Think back to a time when you felt pure gratitude. Maybe it was a family gathering when the love in the room was so tangible, or a quiet evening where everything felt at peace. That feeling, the warmth in your chest, the deep sense of contentment, that's the power of gratitude. And yet, how often do we overlook it? The ancient Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, understood this truth long before we even had the vocabulary to describe it. They taught us that gratitude isn't just about being thankful for the big moments in life. It's about appreciating the small ones too. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." It's easy to forget the privilege of life, especially when things aren't going our way, but the Stoics remind us that every day is an opportunity to be grateful. The power of gratitude lies in the fact that it shifts our focus. Instead of waiting for the next big thing to make us happy, we learn to find joy in the here and now. It's easy to forget to be thankful. Life moves fast, and the constant pressure to perform, to achieve, to hustle, can drown out the quiet whispers of gratitude. But let's take a moment to reflect. Think back to when you were younger, maybe in high school or college, and how differently you saw the world. Maybe you weren't focused on the daily grind then. Maybe you had time to stop and appreciate the beauty around you. As we grow older, we get caught up in the chaos of adult life, but deep down, we still crave those moments of peace, those glimpses of gratitude. Can you remember when you last experienced that pure sense of appreciation for something so simple? That is the power of gratitude. It's not just something we should feel, it's something we need to nurture. Gratitude has the power to transform how we see the world. Imagine waking up every day and taking just a few seconds to remind yourself of everything you're thankful for. A warm bed, a healthy body, your family, or even just the chance to start another day. That shift in perspective, from taking things for granted to actively appreciating them, can make all the difference in how we experience life. It's a simple change, yet one that holds immense power. And it's one that the Stoics embraced fully. They understood that when we focus on what we have, rather than what we lack, happiness becomes less elusive. Number 2. Happiness. Through simplicity, lessons from the Stoics. Have you ever had one of those days when everything just felt right? When life seemed uncomplicated, easy to navigate, and all the noise around you seemed to fade away? Those moments are rare, aren't they? Yet they are some of the most cherished times we experience. Perhaps it's sitting down with a good book, taking a walk in the park, or spending time with loved ones without the distractions of technology or obligations. Life in those moments feels clear and simple. There's a sense of calm that surrounds you, and you can't help but feel a deep sense of peace. But how often do we find ourselves caught up in the busyness of life? We chase after the next big thing, a new job, a new gadget, the latest trend. We think that more is better, that success is defined by how much we can accumulate or how far we can climb. And yet, after all that striving, we find ourselves just as unsatisfied, maybe even more so than before. What if the secret to happiness wasn't about more, but about less? What if happiness was hiding in the simplicity of life, in the quiet moments, in the ability to appreciate what we already have? The Stoics believed that true happiness comes from living simply. They didn't advocate for a life of deprivation, but rather for a life free from unnecessary attachments and distractions. For them, happiness was not found in possessions, achievements, or status, but in the ability to live virtuously and contentedly with what you already had. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, often reminded himself that he already possessed everything he needed to live a good life. "It is not the things themselves that trouble us," he wrote, "but our judgments about them." How often do we judge ourselves by external standards, comparing our lives to others and feeling inadequate because we don't measure up? The Stoics taught us that happiness comes from within, from how we view the world, not how much we acquire. Let's pause for a moment. Think about your life today. How much of your happiness depends on the things you own or the status you've achieved? It's easy to get caught up in the desire for more money, more followers, more recognition. But take a step back. When was the last time you truly felt content with just being? The times when you weren't striving, but simply living. These moments may be fleeting, but they hold profound meaning. The Stoics understood that simplicity didn't mean deprivation. It meant focusing on the things that truly matter: relationships, integrity, and personal growth. Can you remember a time when life felt simpler? Maybe it was during childhood, when you weren't bogged down by the responsibilities of adult life. Those moments when you had no agenda except to enjoy the moment for what it was. The Stoics remind us that we don't need to complicate things. Happiness isn't about seeking more. It's about appreciating what you already have. By stripping away the unnecessary, by focusing on the core of what truly matters, we can experience a life of deep fulfillment. Number 3. Personal excellence. Aligning actions with values. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who seem to live their lives with purpose, clarity, and conviction. It's not their wealth or status that makes them stand out, but their sense of integrity and commitment to their values. There's something magnetic about people who consistently act according to their principles, who don't compromise on what they believe is right, no matter what. Have you ever thought about why they inspire you so much? It's because they embody the very essence of personal excellence. the ability to align their actions with their core values. Now let's take a step back. When was the last time you felt proud of yourself? Not proud because you earned a promotion or bought a new car, but proud because you made a decision that aligned with your true self. When you stayed true to what you believed, no matter how difficult. Those moments are rare, but they are often the most fulfilling. Personal excellence isn't about achieving external accolades. It's about living with integrity, about being true to yourself, and consistently acting in accordance with your highest values. The Stoics believed that personal excellence came from within. It was about cultivating virtues like wisdom, courage, and justice, and living by them every day. They didn't see excellence as something to be achieved for the sake of recognition or wealth, but as a lifelong pursuit of becoming the best version of yourself. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors in history, constantly reminded himself to focus on virtue rather than power. His thoughts weren't centered on building an empire or achieving personal glory. They were focused on acting with integrity and pursuing wisdom in every action. For him, true personal excellence was rooted in how he lived, how he treated others, and how he aligned his actions with his core values. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. How often do we compromise our values in the face of pressure or convenience? Maybe it's taking a shortcut at work or letting a small lie slip by to avoid conflict. But every time we act out of alignment with our true values, we erode our sense of self-worth. True personal excellence comes from within. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that your actions are in harmony with your beliefs. And that kind of inner peace is something that no external achievement can replace. When was the last time you had a chance to really live your values? The times when you didn't act out of fear or the desire for approval, but because you knew it was the right thing to do. Personal excellence isn't about being perfect. It's about striving to be the best version of yourself, even when no one is watching. It's about choosing integrity over convenience, honesty over comfort, and wisdom over. Number 4, authenticity over approval, embracing your true self. Think back to a time when you felt truly free, free from judgment, free from expectations. Maybe it was when you were younger, and the only thing that mattered was that you were being yourself, unapologetically. You didn't worry about whether others liked you, whether you fit in, or whether your choices were the right ones. It was a simpler time, wasn't it? The carefree moments when you could just laugh, love, and live without constantly looking over your shoulder, waiting for approval. But as we grow older, things tend to change. Society, culture, and the people around us start shaping the way we see ourselves. We begin to seek validation from our friends, our family, and yes, even from complete strangers. We post the perfect picture online, we adjust our behavior to fit into the crowd, and we make decisions based on what others think rather than what we truly want. And while we think this will bring us happiness, it often leaves us feeling empty and disconnected. This is where the ancient Stoics had a profound insight. They understood that true peace and fulfillment do not come from seeking external approval, but from embracing our authentic selves. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In other words, it's not about conforming to others' expectations. It's about staying true to yourself, your values, and your integrity. Stoicism teaches that the opinions of others, as well-intentioned as they may be, do not define your worth. Take a moment and think about how much energy you've spent in your life trying to gain approval. How many times have you made choices based on what others would think? Maybe you chose a career path because it seemed prestigious, or followed a trend because you thought it would make you cool. Now ask yourself, did that really bring you the happiness you thought it would? Chances are, the answer is no. The truth is, when you stop seeking validation from others and start seeking approval from within, you begin to live authentically. You start making choices that reflect who you really are, and not the version of yourself that others expect. Consider the times when you've acted authentically, when you've made a decision based solely on your values and desires, without worrying about how it would be perceived. Think about the sense of relief, the deep satisfaction that comes with knowing you've stayed true to yourself. That feeling is something powerful, and it's one the Stoics deeply believed in. They taught us that by embracing our true selves, we are not only living a more fulfilling life, but also cultivating the kind of inner peace that can withstand any external storm. Imagine a life where you no longer feel the weight of others' opinions on your shoulders. Imagine living freely, being the person you were always meant to be. That is the power of authenticity over approval. Number 5. Navigating life's currents, the art of embracing change. Have you ever noticed how life has a way of pulling us in different directions? One moment, you're on top of the world, feeling confident and secure, and the next, things can shift unexpectedly. It's as if life itself is a river, constantly changing, flowing, and at times rushing forward with such force that it feels almost impossible to keep up. We all have those moments, right? Those moments when things feel out of control, when the future is uncertain, and the changes you're experiencing leave you feeling overwhelmed. But here's the thing, change is inevitable. We can try to resist it, we can fight against it, but it will always come. So, the real question isn't whether we'll face change, but how we respond to it. The Stoics, with their timeless wisdom, understood this truth better than anyone. They knew that the key to living a peaceful, fulfilled life wasn't in avoiding change, but in embracing it with grace and understanding. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often reflected on the transience of life, reminding himself that the universe is change, life is opinion. In other words, change is a natural part of the world, and it's our perceptions of it that can either cause us distress or help us grow. Now, let's take a moment to think about your life. How do you respond to change? When something unexpected happens, do you immediately feel the tension, the discomfort, and the resistance? Maybe you've faced a career shift, a move to a new city, or a change in your personal life that left you feeling uncertain. But what if we learn to approach change not as something to fear, but as an opportunity for growth? What if we stopped fighting the current and started navigating it? The Stoics taught that life's challenges, those very changes that seem so difficult in the moment, are actually opportunities in disguise. They are the very things that shape us into the people we are meant to be. Think back to a time when life threw you a curveball. Maybe it was a setback, a loss, or an unexpected turn of events. At the time, it probably felt like a catastrophe. But looking back, wasn't there something valuable in that experience? Maybe you learned resilience, gained new perspectives, or discovered strengths you didn't know you had. Change forces us to adapt, and it's in that adaptation that we truly grow. The art of embracing change is about letting go of the need for control and surrendering to the flow of life. It's about recognizing that, no matter how hard we try to hold on to the past, the current will always carry us forward. And if we can learn to navigate it with grace, to accept the changes with an open heart and mind, we can transform our entire experience of life. Rather than seeing change as something disruptive, we can start to see it as a natural rhythm of life, one that can lead us to deeper wisdom, greater peace, and more meaningful growth. Number 6. The ripple effect of compassion. Kindness as a way of life. There's a certain magic in kindness, isn't there? That feeling when you extend a helping hand, or when someone does something kind for you, and it makes everything feel a little bit brighter. Maybe it's a simple smile from a stranger or a thoughtful gesture from a friend that turns your day around. It's like a ripple in a pond, spreading out, reaching far beyond the original act. Kindness has that kind of power. It can change someone's entire day, and sometimes even their life. Think about it. When was the last time you were on the receiving end of kindness? How did it make you feel? Uplifted, seen, and maybe even inspired to pass it on. But what if kindness wasn't just something we do every now and then, but something we actively choose as a way of life? Imagine a world where every interaction, every conversation, and every decision was guided by compassion. How different would our world be? The Stoics, with their deep understanding of human nature, believed that kindness wasn't just an occasional act, but a guiding principle of living. Seneca, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." He understood that kindness is not just about grand gestures, but about making every moment count, about treating others with respect, empathy, and understanding. Take a moment to reflect. When was the last time you consciously chose to be kind, even when it wasn't the easiest or most convenient option? Maybe it was offering a word of encouragement to someone who seemed down, or helping a stranger when you had nothing to gain. These small acts may seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but they have the power to create ripples of positivity that extend far beyond our immediate circle. When we live with compassion, we change not only the lives of others, but our own lives as well. The Stoics recognized that true power lies in how we treat others. In a world that often feels divided, kindness can be a powerful force for connection and healing. By embracing kindness as a way of life, we don't just make the world a better place. We cultivate a sense of peace within ourselves. Kindness is a reflection of our highest values, and when we act with compassion, we are not only helping others, but we are living in alignment with our truest selves. Imagine the ripple effect that could occur if we all embraced kindness in this way, not just as a response to others, but as a choice we make every day. Number 7. Reflect and grow. The value of daily introspection. There's a certain quiet joy in looking back on a day well lived, isn't there? Think of those moments when you've taken a pause, perhaps right before bed, and you reflect on the choices you made, the things you accomplished, or maybe even the mistakes you learned from. For some of us, those moments of introspection are fleeting, but for others, they are a way of life. And yet, how often do we really allow ourselves the time to reflect deeply, to pause long enough to consider not just what we did, but why we did it? It's easy to rush through life, caught up in the whirlwind of responsibilities, social media, and the constant push to keep moving forward. But when was the last time you took a moment to stop, sit, and think about your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions? How often do we actually allow ourselves the time to process our feelings, to understand our motivations, and to see where we can improve? Reflection isn't just about reminiscing about the past, it's about learning from it. The Stoics had a powerful practice of daily reflection that is still relevant today. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, would end each day by journaling about his thoughts, his actions, and how he could improve the next day. He often asked himself, "What did I do wrong today? What can I learn from my mistakes?" This practice wasn't about self-criticism, it was about self-awareness. By reflecting on the day, the Stoics were able to understand their own behavior and adjust their mindset and actions for the future. The goal was growth, not perfection. Think for a moment about your own habits. How often do you sit down and ask yourself those questions? How often do you reflect on the choices you made and how they align with your values and goals? Even if you're someone who's been doing it for years, it's easy to slip into the habit of going through the motions without really pausing to ask, am I on the right path? Reflection isn't just for the end of the day either. It's an ongoing process, something we can do in the moments between our tasks, in the pauses we allow ourselves throughout the day. By practicing daily introspection, we start to notice the patterns in our thoughts and behaviors. We begin to recognize what serves us and what doesn't. This self-awareness leads to self-improvement, helping us become more aligned with the person we want to be. Imagine the power of taking just a few minutes each day to reflect on how you've shown up in the world, to truly think about your actions and how they impact others, and more importantly, how they impact you. This small habit can lead to profound personal growth and ultimately to a life that feels more meaningful, intentional, and aligned with your values. Number 8. Building resilience. Turning setbacks into stepping stones. Imagine this. You've just faced a setback, a failure, or a moment that has knocked you down. It's easy to feel defeated in those moments. Maybe you've been there before, the crushing feeling of a job loss, a relationship breakdown, or a personal goal that fell apart. The weight of disappointment can be overwhelming, can't it? You start questioning yourself, wondering if it's all worth it. We've all been there. That moment when it feels like everything you've worked for has come crashing down, and it seems like there's no way forward. But what if I told you that the very setback you're facing could be the stepping stone you need to move forward? What if that disappointment, that feeling of defeat, was actually a crucial part of your personal growth? In those dark moments, it can be difficult to see, but setbacks are not the end of the road. They are simply the beginning of something new. The Stoics understood this principle deeply. They believed that every challenge we face is an opportunity for growth, and it's through adversity that we develop resilience. Seneca, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, taught that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In other words, the tough times are what make us stronger. Think about it. If you've ever faced hardship in your life, hasn't it made you more resilient, more resourceful, and more capable of handling future challenges? The Stoics believed that it was not the challenges themselves that defined us, but how we responded to them. So, how do you respond when life knocks you down? Do you give up, or do you get up, dust yourself off, and try again? Resilience is not about avoiding failure. It's about learning how to bounce back. It's about taking those setbacks and turning them into lessons, using them to propel you forward rather than holding you back. The Stoics taught that we can control how we respond to life's challenges, and in doing so, we become stronger, wiser, and more capable of overcoming anything that comes our way. Think about a time when you faced a challenge and eventually came out on the other side stronger. Maybe it was after a difficult job loss that led you to a new and better career, or perhaps it was a personal setback that ultimately helped you grow into a more compassionate person. These moments of adversity aren't failures. They are opportunities for transformation. The key is to see them as such, to view them not as obstacles, but as stepping stones on the path to a better version of yourself. Building resilience is a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed over time. By learning to embrace setbacks as part of the journey and using them as opportunities to grow, we become not just more resilient, but also more confident in our ability to handle whatever life throws our way. Resilience doesn't mean avoiding failure. It means understanding that failure is a part of the process, and that it's what we do in the face of adversity that truly matters. Number 9. Living in harmony. Cultivating empathy and understanding. It's easy to get caught up in our own world, isn't it? We're constantly juggling our responsibilities, our ambitions, and our own desires. We might not even notice how often we're focused on our own lives, our own concerns, and our own perspectives. But think about those times when you've truly connected with someone else, when you've taken a moment to really listen, to put yourself in their shoes, and to understand their point of view. That feeling of connection is powerful, isn't it? When we allow ourselves to truly see others, to understand their struggles, joys, and experiences, we create bonds that are rooted in empathy and respect. But why is it that so often we can be quick to judge or dismiss others, especially when they don't see the world the same way we do? In a world that's becoming more divided every day, the practice of empathy and understanding is more important than ever. And yet, it's something that can be easily overlooked in the rush of daily life. The Stoics recognized that living in harmony with others isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's about truly trying to understand the humanity in everyone you meet. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, often reflected on the idea that we are all part of a larger whole. He believed that every person we encounter is an opportunity to practice empathy. What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee, he said. In other words, what is not good for the collective cannot be good for the individual. He understood that living in harmony with others wasn't just a nice idea, it was a necessity for personal fulfillment and peace. By fostering empathy and understanding, we contribute to the well-being of everyone, including ourselves. Think about a time when you really listened to someone, when you allowed yourself to understand their perspective, even if it was different from your own. How did it feel? Did it deepen your connection with that person? The Stoics taught that empathy isn't just a passive feeling, it's an active practice. It requires us to step outside of our own narrow perspective and truly see others as they are, not as we wish them to be. It's about recognizing our shared humanity, our common struggles, and our mutual desires for love, peace, and happiness. Living in harmony with others isn't about always agreeing or seeing eye to eye. It's about creating an environment where empathy and understanding can thrive. When we approach others with compassion and open-mindedness, we open the door to deeper connections, to a sense of unity, and to a greater sense of peace in our own lives. It's a practice, a mindset, and a choice that we can make every day. To see the world through the eyes of others, to understand their struggles, and to live in harmony with the people around us. Number 10. The interconnectedness of life. Lessons from Marcus Aurelius. Have you ever had that feeling when everything just seems connected? You walk down the street and a stranger gives you a smile, and suddenly your mood lifts. Or perhaps you notice how your actions ripple out into the world, affecting others in ways you couldn't even imagine. It's like a cosmic web that ties us all together, and in those moments, the interconnectedness of life feels real. But how often do we stop to think about the greater web we're all part of? There are times when we get lost in our own little world, feeling like we're separate from the rest of society. But the truth is, we are all part of something much bigger. It's easy to forget that our actions, our words, and even our thoughts affect others. And yet, Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, had a deep understanding of this interconnectedness. He saw that everything in life is part of a larger, grander whole. The universe is vast, and yet we all have a place within it. He believed that each person is connected to the others, and that our individual actions have a ripple effect on the world around us. Marcus's philosophy encouraged us to think beyond ourselves and recognize the roles we play in the lives of others. He once wrote, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee," reminding us that no one is an island. The choices we make, whether big or small, impact the people around us, and ultimately the world at large. In a world that often feels fragmented and disconnected, his words serve as a reminder that we are all part of a shared experience, and we are all contributing to the energy of the world. It's not just about being kind or helpful to others. It's about understanding the profound truth that we are all interdependent. Think of the countless ways our lives overlap with others. The person you meet on the bus, the colleague you sit next to at work, the neighbor you say hello to. These seemingly small interactions are all part of a much larger interconnected system. By recognizing our interconnectedness, we cultivate a sense of responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to the world at large. Our actions matter, and they shape the world we live in. The more we embrace this reality, the more meaningful our lives become. In moments of frustration or isolation, it can be easy to forget that we are part of this vast network. But when we make the effort to remember that our existence is tied to something greater than ourselves, we develop a deep sense of purpose. This understanding transforms our outlook on life, helping us live more harmoniously with others and encouraging us to take actions that benefit not just us, but the collective whole. Number 11. Anchoring in virtue. How Stoicism guides. Personal growth. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live a life anchored in virtue? To consistently act with integrity, courage and wisdom, no matter the circumstances. There's a sense of peace that comes from living according to a strong moral compass, isn't there? The Stoics believed that true happiness comes not from external circumstances, but from living a life grounded in virtue. The idea that the essence of a good life is rooted in internal rather than external factors is both comforting and empowering. It's not about achieving fame, wealth, or status. It's about aligning your actions with your core values every single day. Virtue in Stoic philosophy refers to living with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These aren't just abstract concepts. They are actionable principles that guide how we interact with the world and make decisions. The Stoics believed that cultivating virtue was the key to a life well lived. Marcus Aurelius, in his personal writings, constantly reminded himself to act with virtue in the face of life's challenges. When faced with difficult people or situations, he would ask himself, "How can I respond with virtue?" His commitment to living virtuously was unwavering. For us, living virtuously means holding ourselves accountable, making decisions that align with our highest values, and being true to ourselves, no matter what life throws our way. When you are anchored in virtue, external events no longer have the power to shake your peace. This doesn't mean that life won't be difficult or that we won't face hardship, but it means that, in the face of adversity, we can still maintain our integrity and our sense of purpose. The Stoics taught that the external world is beyond our control, but how we respond to it is entirely within our power. Think about a time when you faced a challenge and you had to decide whether to act with integrity or take an easier route. It could have been a moment in your personal life or a decision at work. How did you feel after choosing the path of virtue? Did it bring you a sense of peace, even though it might have been the harder option? Living virtuously isn't always easy, but it brings a deeper satisfaction than any fleeting external success can offer. As you continue your journey, anchoring your actions in virtue provides a sense of direction and clarity. It's like having a compass that guides you through life's uncertainties. By practicing wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, you build a solid foundation for personal growth. And the beauty of it is, this process doesn't end. With each choice you make, you deepen your understanding of what it means to live virtuously, helping you grow into the person you truly want to be. Number 12. Your worth. Within, redefining happiness, beyond social validation. In a world where social media reigns supreme, it's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of validation from others. We scroll through our feeds, looking for likes, comments, and approval from the outside world. It's easy to mistake these fleeting moments of attention for true happiness. But deep down, you've probably wondered, does this external validation really bring lasting joy? In a society that's so focused on outward appearances, it's more important than ever to remember that true happiness comes from within. The Stoics, long before the age of social media, recognized that happiness cannot be derived from the approval or judgment of others. They believed that self-worth should not be dependent on external factors. The only thing that truly defines us is our inner character and how we live according to our values. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this idea in his writings, reminding himself that his worth was not determined by the opinions of others, but by his own actions, thoughts, and virtues. For the Stoics, happiness wasn't about seeking applause or approval. It was about living in alignment with one's own values. Have you ever felt the pressure to conform to societal expectations? Perhaps you found yourself doing something, not because it truly reflects who you are, but because it's what others expect from you. In these moments, it's easy to lose sight of your true self. But here's the liberating truth. Your worth does not lie in the approval of others. Your worth is inherent in who you are, what you believe, and how you live your life. The Stoics believed that when we focus on living virtuously and in accordance with our true selves, external validation becomes irrelevant. True happiness comes from within. Imagine the freedom of no longer feeling the need to measure your worth by how many people like your photos or agree with your opinions. Imagine finding peace in simply being who you are, without the constant need for external validation. This is the essence of living authentically, a life where your happiness is self-generated, not contingent on the fluctuating opinions of others. As you embrace this mindset, you begin to realize that happiness is not something to be found outside of yourself, but within you all along. And that realization can change everything. As we wrap up, remember that the true power to change your life lies within you. It's in how you approach gratitude, simplicity, and personal excellence that defines your path to happiness. By embracing these principles, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. So, take a moment today to reflect on what you can change within yourself to create a life filled with purpose and joy. Drop 100 if you've watched this far. This shows that you're part of the 0.01% who actually finish what they start. If you're serious about transforming your life and living authentically, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't just watch. Take action and join a community committed to growth, self-discovery, and living with intention. Your journey starts now.